In part 2 of our video series on Kenjutsu, the art of Japanese sword, we're going to look at kamae. Kamae are postures, ways of standing with a sword. Now, there are many kamae in different ruha, different traditions that teach or associate with the Japanese sword. We're just going to concentrate on the schools that we teach. Most of our sword come from two schools, the Kukishinren-ryu and the Togaku-ryu. So let's look at some of the kamae that we teach here in the Warrior Quest Academy. Let's start with the first of our kamae. I introduced this briefly in video number 1, and I called this the Shizen no Kamae, the natural standing position. I mentioned this is etiquette and safety. It's etiquette because it shows that I know how to stand with a sword. I'm not scratching my back with it, I'm not leaning on it. I'm standing here in the Shizen no Kamae and I'm watching what's going on, I'm focused on what I'm being taught, and I'm ready to move. But I'm also safe. The sword is away, it's in the saya, my thumb is securing it, it can't fall out and it can't be pulled. If someone walks by me and tries to pull my sword, they can't get it, it's securely in there. So this is the Shizen no Kamae. From here I'm ready to draw. If I'm suddenly attacked, I can draw the sword. I can cut someone down. This is sheathing the sword, and we'll look at this in video number 3. How to put the sword back in the saya. But this is a good place to start. When you were given a sword, put it in your obi, stand like so. I said the other way of standing is simply to hold the sword at the side. Do not lean on it, do not scratch your back with it. These are the two positions you should be standing with a sword in our Warrior Quest Academy when we are teaching the sword. Let's move on now to posture number 2. Posture number 2 is called the Seiga no Kamae. It means the true eye position. In this posture, the sword is drawn and it's pointing towards the attacker's eyes. In some schools, this is said to be a secret, but the idea is to hide the length of the blade. From here, I can thrust forward, but what I'm doing is I'm keeping the enemy at bay. It is the same with our Taijutsu Ichimonji no Kamae, where our front hand is extended and keeping our attacker away. From the side, it looks like this. Now, there's two common mistakes that people make with a sword. Number 1 is the feet are too close together. Using the sword like this, almost like kendo. This is an Edo period type of posture. Edo period, really from about the 1830s. It's not really used by samurai. Samurai would be much deeper. In the Sengoku Jin period of Warring States, we're wearing armour. I want to blade my body. That brings me to the second mistake people make, is they're too square on. They stand like this. In this position, you're just presenting a target. People can stab here. So by stepping my leg back and bringing this almost on the hip, on the koshi, this point here is called the koshira, and it almost rests on the hip, the koshi. So I'm blading my body, I'm letting my armour defend me, I'm keeping my vital organs back. But say from here I'm ready to thrust, I'm ready to move, and I'm ready to move into other postures. Just from side again, we're here. I'm facing the attacker, ready to stab, or ready to move. Just whatever point I'm holding the sword. I see a lot of people hold the sword like this. The hands are too close together. Equally, your hand should not be up right against the guard like this. As I said on the first video, although we call this a hand guard, a tsuba, it's not necessarily to protect the hand, it's not to stop your hand slipping down the blade. A good idea is to have a little gap, maybe be able to put a finger in there, and this then lays into the palm. I like to keep the fingers like this. There's an old adage from old Western swordsmanship, which relates to a bird. If you hold a bird too tight, you kill it. Hold it too loose, it flies away. The same with a sword. If we hold the sword too tight, then the sword has no movement. Hold it too loosely, and you're going to drop it. By keeping these fingers here loose, it means the sword can maneuver, you can cut, you have that flexibility to be able to use the sword. There is a preponderance at the moment in some martial arts. I see on social media, in some martial arts like karate, sport karate, where they have swords and they're throwing them up in the air, they're catching them behind their back, they're spinning them around. This is not Japanese swordsmanship. These people think they know how to use a Japanese sword, and yeah, what they do looks very skillful. It looks very acrobatic. And that's what it is, acrobatics with maybe a plastic or a bamboo sword. Try that with a real one. Try that with a real sharp one and see what happens. That is not Japanese swordsmanship. In Japanese swordsmanship, all our movements need to be as economical as possible. We need to be able to cut straight away, not wasting energy, not showing off. We're swordsmen. Everything is precise. So anyway, this is a Seigo no Kamae. Think of the posture, it's no different than if I was doing Ichimonji no Kamae unarmed, it's just the opposite way around. So this is a Seigo no Kamae, the true I position. The next posture we're going to look at is the Jodan no Kamae, sometimes called the Dai Jodan no Kamae. In this, my left leg is forward, I'm standing here like this. I'm ready to cut down, I'm ready to move forward. A good point, or a good way of thinking about using the sword or anything we know in martial art is if the left hand is forward, the left leg should be forward and vice versa. When I cut from here, and I cut in, now my right hand is forward and my right leg is forward. So I follow with the body, cutting down. So this is a Daijon, it means the great upper posture. From the side is like this. I'm cutting in, like this. Now, there's a common mistake people make, it's about timing of the cut. We are not doing this. And we are not doing this. The foot and the blade move together. Ken, Tai, Ichijo, the body and the weapon are one thing. So from this position here, I can move forward with my knee. This is the advantage of having a long posture. I can move forward, I'm ready to move forward, and I cut down. Everything moves together. The next posture we have in our series is the Churan no Kamae. It's very similar to the Seigo no Kamae. This time, the sword is pointing flat towards the stomach. So instead of pointing towards the eyes, it points towards the stomach. From here, I can thrust. Notice when I thrust, I'm not pulling my hands back and then thrusting. I'm not doing this. It is my body that thrusts. And my arms just straighten slightly. From here, and pull back. As simple as this. It is not pulling and thrusting here. This is one of the mistakes beginners make. Again, low posture, thrust in. Churan no Kamae literally means the middle position posture, because it's the middle position. Now another posture we've done the Daijodan, the upper level posture, the middle level posture. Next is this Gedan no Kamae, the lower level posture. With this, the sword points towards the front foot of the attacker. We can lean forward to get the attacker to attack our head. With Kamae, there's usually always a weakness, something you're showing. In the Daijon no Kamae, I'm trying to get them to attack here. In the Gedan no Kamae, I'm trying to get them to attack my head. I'm ready to move to counter cut. Maybe their arms come down and I cut their wrist. I can then cut back in again. So in this Gedan no Kamae, I'm temptingly close. It's almost like if you're in Daijon no Kamae, you can cut my head. But what I can do is I can move back from here. As you'll see in one of the kata later, I can move away just by using my knees. I can avoid the incoming blade. Variation of this is have it this way around. So this time the blade is pointing towards the floor. It looks like having a steel with a sword. This is called Chosui or Tosui no Kamae. Chosui means clear water, low level posture. Chosui Gedan. And I've been told, as I say, to show that you have no skill with blade. It's to allow a samurai or make a samurai believe that you have no skill. When in fact what you're really doing is you're hiding it. You're hiding your skill, which is a very, very strange posture. The variation is just to bring the sword straight, and this is called Jizuri Geino no Kamae. In this, I'm ready to stab forward. I'm ready to move from here to stabbing my whole body this way. So this is the Geino. Number 1, number 2, or number 3. Again, keeping your body low. The next posture we have in our series is the Hasso no Kamae, the 8-phase posture. This is a little bit different to other postures in that my feet are together. Rather than being very, very wide apart, either in the Daijodan or the Chudan or the Geiden or the Seigon no Kamae, now my feet are going to be together. They're going to be here, almost like a ballerina. So, in this position, the sword is here. It's tucked in. In fact, it's almost like I'm hiding the sword. Again, I'm showing a weakness. I'm showing a weakness to my back. So I may side, my attacker may side to cut at me with a horizontal cut. As they do so, I move here. I cut them down. That was a little bit exaggerated there, just to show you, because of the mistake beginners make. And that's extending the sword too far when they cut. A lot of beginners, they'll cut like this too far behind them, and then they can't get a sword back. Always move from kamae to kamae. Always try to keep your blade facing towards an attacker as much as possible. So I'm here, I'm showing his weakness. My attacker decides to cut at my back. As he does so, I can cut. And now as I just lean back, I'm in Seigon no Kamae, and I can thrust in. So this Hasso no Kamae again is 8-phase position. Here, show the weakness, and cut straight down. This is called Hasso Kesagiri. The Kesa is the band that runs down the dogi. It runs from the shoulder to the hip. So Kesagiri means to cut the Kesa. The Kesa is also a garment worn by Buddhist monks. But we're cutting in a diagonal cut from top to bottom. Don't overextend yourself, it's not a golf swing. I want to be stopping here. So I can actually cut back up this way. The reverse of this is Gyaku Kesagiri. Cutting here or cutting here. Almost like this figure 8. But again, my blade is pointing towards the attacker, and I can step back into Seigan, or from this position, we can thrust. So that brings us to this position. This position here is called the Kasumi no Kamae. It means the fog position. From here, I can bring over my head and cut. Bring over and cut down this way. And again, I need to be able to recover. Don't cut too far. From here, cut. I'm ready to cut again if I need to. So as I say, what we don't want to be doing is cutting like this where I can't get the blade back. I want to be here or even here. I can catch the light, use it to blind an attacker. There's actually a technique for this in our ninjutsu schools. Of blinding an attacker with the blade. And then bringing the sword and cutting down. The variation is Kocho no Kamae, where this time the blade is forward. From here, again I'm ready to stab forward. Moving this way into the target. Then I can lean back into this Seigon no Kamae. Don't forget, all these postures can be done on the other side too. So I do Kasumi both sides. I can do Hasso both sides. So that's actually more than say 9 postures or 10 postures that we have in this set. There is postures for both sides in some occasions. So once more, Kasumi no Kamae, Kocho no Kamae. Kocho no Kamae means butterfly. Kasumi means the fog. So I'm fogging the person, maybe with the light from the sun, and then cutting them down. Or from the Kocho no Kamae, I'm stabbing the butterfly. And then back into Seigo no Kamae. The next posture we have is the Rusui no Kamae, the water willow posture. I really love that name. It's sometimes called the Waki no Kamae, but I prefer the Rusui no Kamae, the water willow posture. In this posture, the sword is held behind me like this. It looks very strange. Why would someone have a sword behind them? Well, I'm hiding the sword. A person from the front, from where the camera is, should not be able to see my weapon. They may know I've got a sword, but they don't know what sort of sword it is, or how long it is. I might even have a staff. They have no idea really what I've got. But again, I'm tempted in. I look like an easy target. But from here, I can move up. I'm ready to move. I'm ready to slice up into my attacker, maybe even thrust forward from there. But think about it like this. It could be that I'm in Geiro no Kamae here. So waiting here in Geiro no Kamae. I've got an attacker to my front here. But suddenly, someone's behind me. I know they're behind me. Rather than having to move posture to here or maybe to here, all I have to do now is just turn my body. And now I've just got into Rusui no Kamae. So from this position here, it's Geiro no Kamae. By turning, I'm in Rusui no Kamae. And that brings me into another mistake that students make. They rely too much on the sword. It's not just about the sword. When I'm moving, the whole body moves with a sword. I'm doing taijutsu with the blade. The sword is just a tool that allows me to use my body. Again, Ken Taiji Jo. The body and the weapon are one thing. So don't rely too much on the sword. We're not axemen, we are swordsmen. With an axe, you can just chop down like this. With a sword, the body moves forward with it as well. 1, 2. Or from here, 1, 2. Everything is together. I always say to my students, if anything, move around your weapon. Don't allow the weapon to move around you. And what I mean by that is, as I say, if we're here in Geidan, I don't have to move the sword over here, or the sword over here, or the sword up here, because during the transition of those kamae is where I'm vulnerable. When I move from here to here, I am vulnerable. In the kamae, I'm safe. So if I'm in Geiro no Kamae here, and I'm suddenly attacked from here, I actually don't rechange kamae. The sword stays exactly where it is. Yes, we call it Geiro no Kamae and Rusui no Kamae, but the sword itself has not moved. I can be in Seigo no Kamae here, I can step back here, but all the way through this transitional movement, I'm ready to cut. In fact, I do it quite slowly because I'm ready to cut at any moment, which brings me to this position. This is called Tenshi no Kamae. It's kind of halfway between the Seigan and the Jodan. Tenshi, heaven and earth posture. Some people call this Kongo no Kamae. The Tenshi, I could be this way round or this way round. But basically I'm halfway through. I can move through Geidan, through Chudan, through Seigan, through Tenshi, into Jodan, into Hasso, into Kasumi, into Kocho, into Jitsuri Geidan, into Tosui Geidan. And then from here, just changing and turning into Rusui no Kamae. So all these positions join up. It's like joining the dots. You move from one to the other, to the other, to the other. Try to restrict the movement of the sword as much as you can. In fact, sometimes allow the attacker to come onto your sword. So these are some of the kamae that we teach in the Warrior Quest Dojo. There are other kamae, there are others. But these are the most important. So please practice. We've covered some of the cutting as well, but we'll come back to that in other videos of how to cut with a sword. because there's some difference of cutting with the Japanese sword and when people are cutting bamboo, what we call tamashigeri. That is very, very different to how we would cut with a sword. But we'll come back to that in a later video. In the last part of this video, I thought it would be interesting to introduce you to a different type of sword. I've been using what I referred to in video 1 as a katana. Everybody's heard that name. It's as well known as the words samurai and ninja, and of course everybody knows what those words mean. Or do they? I prefer to use the word daito, long sword, for a katana. This is more historically accurate. There's a short sword as well we call the wakizashi, the side sword. This is called the shoto. And of course the samurai would carry both the daito and the shoto. But this is from a particular period of history, because politics, warfare changed throughout time. In fact, it's very unlikely that I'll actually go onto a battlefield with that type of sword I've been showing. That type of sword was used for a different period. Swords actually weren't that popular on the battlefield. The main weapons on the battlefield were the spear, the halberd, the naginata, the spear being called the yari, the bow and arrow, or the yumiya, and firearms at a later date, around about the 16th century when firearms started to appear. The sword, if anything, was a backup weapon. If you lost your spear, you lost your naginata, your halberd, then you go into your sword. The type of swords that were used on the battlefield were much bigger. This is an old dachi. It's a battlefield sword. If I put this into my obi, I physically cannot draw it. It will not come out. In fact, the chances are that samurai swords were not actually worn in the belt, except until about the 17th century. They were carried differently. And this sword would be carried on the back. I'm a samurai, I'm going to battle, I'm riding a horse. This is the best place for it to be. Just like a modern infantryman or a World War II soldier. Carrying a rifle, when it's not needed, you sling it on your back. When you go to battle, you take it off your back and then you start using that weapon. The same with this. Once I get to the battlefield and I get off my horse, because I'm going to fight on foot, I then might take my sword, unsheath it, and give my saya to retainer, and now I'm ready to do battle. I'm ready to enter the battlefield. This has a lot more weight, has a lot more reach, a lot more length. It's not just a fact I can cut with it, it has a concussive ability. Hitting someone with this, it may not cut through the armour, but it sends a shockwave through the armour of the person. It's like a hammer. In fact, some of these swords, some are even bigger than this, and they were made of thick steel. Because it's heavier, it's important that I use my body. It's no good just using my arms. If I just use my arms, when I cut, I cannot break the action. So if I cut from here, as I'm stepping forward, I might cut the person here, but I can't stop the break, and then the sword hits the floor and damages the sword. What I need to use is my body. I need to cut with my body. It's my body that's cutting with a sword. Now I may not do anything with finesse with this sword because it is simply too heavy. The cuts I might do are from his daijoda or from his hasso. And in fact, if I was wearing a kabuto, a helmet, it would be almost impossible to hold the sword here. So I'd probably hold it here, in this hasso no kamae. And I might cut horizontal, this way, or down this way. In fact, when I was at university, and I was studying archaeology, I spent a lot of time looking at grave sites in Japan and looking at the trauma on skeletons. And nearly all the cuts were horizontal. The chance either being cut with a halberd or being cut with a very large sword, where someone from here is literally cutting this way, cutting in a horizontal pattern. And to do this, you need to use your entire body. It's no good just using the arms. You've got to be able to use your entire body to cut and then break the sword, break that motion. So anyway, this is the old dachi, the battlefield sword. In other videos, we'll show you other types of sword that were used by samurai warriors and ninja. But please, practice. You may not have a metal sword, you may just have a bokken, a wooden sword, and that's fine. Practice that. And in video number 3, we're going to show you how to draw the sword from the saya. And we're going to show you 3 different methods of drawing and cutting, what's referred to as Batto Jutsu, literally drawing and cutting somebody down. So go and practice. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment if you want, and I'll try to answer it as best I can. Thank you for watching, and see you in video number 3. Thank you.